Welcome to your Daily 5 for Wednesday, November 22nd, 2023. In a week that has had no shortage of fascinating technology stories, the one that I have really been the most fascinated by, even though I didn't find it very surprising, I shouldn't say that. I found the speed of the collapse of Nothing Chat to be surprising. I did not find its collapse by itself to be all that shocking. But yeah, Nothing Chat, which I don't know whether people who aren't in the United States would even know anything about this because it's addressing it's apparently a very American problem, which is that in the United States, probably other places too, but mostly in the United States, there is this apparently very well-known phenomenon among younger people where if you are using, let's say you have an Android phone, your friend has an iPhone. When you send your iPhone friend a message, the bubble shows up as a different color. And this is apparently a very, very serious schism among the youth in the United States or any place else where iMessage has any permeation, which my understanding is it's mostly here. But in any event, I'm trying not to be too patronizing when I talk about it because I was young and I cared about stupid things for no reason too. So I get why, even though as an adult I can't fathom why anybody cares about this, I get why younger people are. And I know text messages and multimedia stuff there's so many ways around this that again just doesn't seem like a real problem to me. But that's because I'm not young. So for young people, this is a big deal. And probably for some older people, but it seems primarily for younger folks at this point. And there was a company that I guess a couple of years ago proposed what seems like an insane solution when you say it out loud. And yet this is something that they just released and it just collapsed in under 24 hours. And the idea was this company Sunbird, who I guess partnered with Nothing, the phone manufacturer, and they rebranded the app as Nothing Chat. And the idea here was, and it's almost, again, it's hard to say this with a straight face. They were proposing that users turn over their secure Apple credentials, meaning the credentials that you use to sign in and see your purchases, manage your account, something where if you get locked out of it, it is exceptionally difficult to get it back in most cases. But they were saying, give us those credentials. We'll handle them very securely. Your messages will never be read. We'll store your credentials in a way that nobody can get to them. And we will log into iMessage for you and relay your Android messages through iMessage so that they appear on iPhones as iMessage messages in the same color that all other iMessage users are. Now, I have to step back sometimes and understand that most people don't have a real security awareness. Most ordinary users aren't really cyber securely educated. That might be correct, but it doesn't sound right. They aren't well versed in cybersecurity essentials. They are at times a little careless with passwords, reusing them, using ones that are easily guessed. But I would think that even people who were only vaguely aware of security protocols would be hesitant to turn these credentials over to a company that I'd never heard of before, and I'm sure most people didn't. But even if this had worked, which of course it didn't, this is what I mean about it collapsed in 24 hours. It's now been completely disappeared. At first it was paused, now it's gone. From what I read, it's not coming back, and I can't imagine how it would at this point. Because they were, storing messages in a format that people could read and apparently weren't securing credentials very well. What a shock. So even if this had worked properly, even if all the security protocols had been taken, even if all the messages were encrypted properly, even if you couldn't get into anything, how does anybody think that this would have lasted in terms of what Apple would have done to it? Because I'm not a lawyer, and I can think of a couple of ways that Apple could have sued this company really quickly to get this thing taken down in terms of it being a compromise on their security protocols, just theirs internally. Now, I don't know if those lawsuits would have really worked, but they probably would have cost a lot of money. And that's sort of what corporate litigation is let's just drag this out until the other company kneels. Or probably more likely, they would have come up with some kind of technological solution. They would have found a way to filter these messages, block them, and just knock this company right out. I don't know how anyone with any rational mind could have thought this solution would have lasted. It might have had some kind of short-term life had it been secure, but Apple would have found a way to stomp it. This is one of their major levers on younger people, a way to grow their ecosystem by getting people in young, keeping them in the ecosystem, and ideally turning them into older customers who stick with their brand. I mean, there's other things too, but this is a big one for younger people. Why would they allow this to stay in place? It just doesn't make any sense if you stop and think about it for more than a few seconds. So the speed of the collapse, yes, I was kind of surprised by that. But the fact that this thing didn't last, no. You could have seen that coming a mile away. Later.